We sold our place, bought a fixer-upper, and remodeled it from the ground up by hand. Last week, we talked all about the financial wins from this project, but this week we're zooming back to take a look at the big picture to ask the question, is it possible we lost money doing this? Oh, it's a dangerous game we're playing this week. Let's do it. Hello everybody, my name is Max. I'm an accredited financial counselor operating out of the most expensive city in the world, Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. If you haven't seen it yet, I'd recommend watching part 1 of this series, where we talk about all the ways we earned/saved money by renovating this apartment. In this video, we're looking at the project from a different perspective. Specifically through the lens of opportunity cost over time. Now, I just want to take a moment here to sort of recognize that my wife and I are very privileged, extremely privileged. We have privileges that they don't even have names for yet. But I hope that no matter what your situation might be, whether or not you need to make a $100 decision or a $100,000 decision, that you can still find value from this video. The core concepts in this video are universal, and the first one is opportunity cost. What is opportunity cost, you might be asking yourself? The loss of potential gain from another alternative when one alternative is chosen. That's a bit brain melting, so allow me to illustrate with a wrestling-based example. New Japan Pro Wrestling holds an annual single elimination tournament called the New Japan Cup. If you win the tournament, you receive this trophy, which is gigantic, by the way, and the opportunity to challenge for a championship title of your choice. In this scenario, regardless of which title you choose to pursue, the opportunity cost is the chance to challenge for the other 2 titles. So opportunity cost is all the paths that you didn't take, all the doors that you didn't open. And I warn you now that obsessing about opportunity cost is a slip and slide to crazy town. That being said, let's obsess about opportunity cost. So a quick recap of what we did. We spent $60,000 on renovations. We think we earned roughly $110,000 in home equity. We acquired an additional $40,000 of debt, which we rolled into $40,000 of investments, and we gained skills that will save us money on home maintenance and repairs, roughly $425 a year. If you've got questions about how all of this was possible, I encourage you, go watch part 1 of this 2-part series. If we assume a 3% annual property value increase, a 2% interest on the loan, and a 5% return on the investments, in 10 years' time, we'll be sitting at around $109,000. Pretty good. Nobody is complaining here, but what are the alternatives? Well, instead of doing all of this, we could have taken that 60 grand and spent it on an animatronic dinosaur display. Or we could have taken that 60 grand and done nothing. Let it languish in a savings account, gathering dust and losing buying power to inflation. Compared to those 2 options, so far the renos are looking pretty good. But what if we took that same 60 grand and we invested the money? We moved $60,000 from cash into investments. Then with a 5% return in 10 years' time, we would have earned just under $38,000, leaving us with a difference of around 71 grand. We are entering precarious territory here because we haven't even talked about time. Don't forget, we didn't just spend $60,000 on these renos. We also spent 6 months worth of time and energy. Could that same time and energy applied elsewhere result in additional take-home earnings? Absolutely. I believe reasonably I could have earned around $30,000 during that same period of time. Extremely privileged, which narrows the gap down to a $41,000 difference. Before we go any deeper, I just want to take a moment to encourage you to hit that subscribe button. New content coming out all the time. And if you find this video valuable, if you think other people will find this video valuable, I encourage you to please hit that like button. That tells YouTube that other people should watch this, that other people could learn from this video. Thanks so much for the continued support. Let's get back to the video. So at this point, mathematically, renos are still in the lead, but let's take it one step farther. That $30,000 that we theoretically earned over that 6-month reno period can also be added to our $60,000 of investments. If we do that in 10 years' time, we narrow the gap even further to about $22,000. Now remember, these numbers come from extrapolating things outwards to 10 years in the future. But if we move beyond that to 30 years, that 5% return on the investments eventually wins out by a little under 9 grand. Quick sidebar. Life is not a spreadsheet. Life is not organized and predictable. Investments do not earn precisely 5% every single year. A spreadsheet cannot predict the future. But what it can do is help us understand the range of possibilities so that we can move forward in our financial decision making with confidence and peace of mind. It's an important tool, an important exercise, but it's not a crystal ball. End of sidebar. So by not doing the renos and instead focusing on simply earning some extra bucks and investing that money would have likely put us a little bit ahead of the curve. But there is one more slightly paranoid aspect that needs to be factored into our equation here. One of the primary ways we were able to keep our renovation costs down was by doing the renovations ourselves. I'm talking doors, floors, painting, electrical, etc. And for the most part, we did a passable job. But I can't help but wonder if our spirited but amateur workmanship may have left behind a few ticking time bombs that might one day cost us. For example, check out this bathroom. Looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Well, every so often, I hear this weird noise coming out of here. I have no idea where it comes from or what causes it. I would describe it like a crazy person on the train sharpening a meat cleaver. Now, is that sound just a little bit of character from maybe the building's internal plumbing or something and it's nothing to worry about? Or is it an amateur mistake that is slowly building in the background and will one day murder me in my sleep? Only time will tell. And it's not just the spirited but amateur workmanship that's of concern. It's also a lot of our inexperienced decision making, particularly when it came to selecting materials. Did you know, for example, that not all tile is created equal? In fact, tiles are as varied as Street Fighter 2 characters. Ryu is not interchangeable with Balrog. If you want a character that shoots fireballs, you better not pick E-Honda. This is what tiles are like. We picked a bunch of tiles that just looked good. We didn't consider durability, quality, ease of installation, nothing. Our tile guy, one of the few things we paid someone else to do, thank God, he worked magic with the materials we gave him, but some of these tiles, they were just not built to last. I am particularly concerned with the tiles above the fireplace, which I'm anticipating needing the whole thing to be redone in the very near future. When you start to factor in those potential repairs or correcting mistakes that are directly attributed to us not knowing what we were doing, the gap between the two options begins to widen. So now that we know that we likely left money on the table, would I go back in time and take the simpler and more lucrative approach? Not in a million years. There will always be a more mathematically advantageous option, always. But life is not about simply accumulating as much money as you possibly can. Money is a tool, the tool that helps us live an engaging and interesting life. Now, would I go back in time and do things a little bit differently? Absolutely. I would never have bought a black countertop. Anybody who tells you don't buy a black countertop, listen to them. They are right. I wish I could have spent more time with my tile guy to talk about these are the things we're thinking about purchasing. Is this a good idea? Talk me out of this. Please stop me from buying these tiles. But it's okay. A home reno project like this is not for everyone, but it's projects like this that give texture to a life well lived. And so it turns out that it's not maybe the most financially lucrative option, but it came with new experiences, new skills. I bonded with my parents. And yes, there was stress and at times legitimate physical danger. I almost watched my dad impale his head on a black nail like this big. I have nightmare visions of it all the time. It was an adventure. And thankfully, we made money along the way. And so I encourage all of you to think about how you are using your money, and does that chime with the type of life that you want to live? So that's it for this week. This was a weird video, hard to put together. I hope that you guys found it interesting. I hope it wasn't too conceptually weird. Anyways, you know what's funny? My clients do find it strange sometimes when I suggest that, just the most mathematically viable option is not necessarily the best option or the option that fits your life. And if that is a statement that resonates with you, I encourage you to find me on Instagram, find me on my website, maxmitchellmoney.com, and let's book a time. Let's sit down and let's chat about your money. That's it for me. Have a great week, everybody. Peace.